Hi everybody, how's it going? So this past weekend and during the week was the big Friends of the Library sale here in Gainesville, Florida. There's a flyer for their next sale coming up in spring. It's a big deal for me. I love going. Unfortunately, my job now, I have to work weekends. I work Saturday and Sunday. So I missed out on the first 2 days of the sale. And Saturday, they open early. They open at 9 in the morning, and Saturday, the rest of the days, the next 4 days, they open at noon. But there's always a huge line, huge crowd on Saturday, and they have a ton of books. It's a huge warehouse full of books, and in the back corner they have a bunch of records and CDs, and I hardly even look at the books. I'm just so into the music, digging through the records and the CDs. And unfortunately, if you miss the first couple days, it seems like Saturday and Sunday, pretty much anything on vinyl, rock, any kind of rock music is pretty well picked over. That's what we're a college town. I think most of the students, that's what they look for, like classic rock, things like that on vinyl. But I collect mostly jazz these days, so it's not a big deal, and that tends to stick around for a while, let's say. So I made it. I missed it over the weekend, but I made it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all 3 days. And unfortunately, I only had about 2 hours each day to shop because they open at noon, and then at about 2 o'clock, I'd have to head out to my car and pick my daughter up from school. But I'm still I'm really happy with what I found. In past years, past sales I've gone to, I've kind of focused more on the vinyl. Dug through the vinyl, and then at the end kind of hit the CDs and picked out some good stuff. This time seemed like there were a ton of really good, really strong jazz titles in the CD section. So I spent a lot more money on CDs, but I did find some interesting records. Alright, I don't normally drink beer in videos, but I found this in sort of the clearance bin at Publix the other day. Samuel Smith organic chocolate stout. I don't really drink beer that much anymore, but I used to really enjoy the Samuel Smith beer years ago when I was in college, and we tried to become little beer snobs. But my cat is very curious about the beer bottle, so I'd normally pour it in a glass and not be a primitive person, but I'm worried if I pour it in a glass, the cat will knock the glass over. But so that's why it's not in a glass. But anyway, let me get right into it. I'm going to make 3 videos showing for each day what I picked up, because it's a lot of stuff and I don't want to make one huge long video. So let's get right into it. Like I was saying, picked up a bunch of records. I'm not going to say vinyl because a lot of them aren't vinyl. They're actually shellac, some old 78s. Some pretty neat stuff. They actually have a pretty massive collection of 78s. It's usually one of the last things I go through because it's just kind of hard. You almost have to pull each one out and look at it and like squint real hard to read. Sometimes the labels are faded and you can't quite make out what the records are, but I did find some good stuff among the 78s. But first up, a 45 from the Prestige label. Classic jazz label here. This is the modern Milt Jackson and the Modern Jazz Quartet. Delaunay's Dilemma on this side, and Autumn in New York on the other side. So kind of neat for $1.25. Anytime I see like a Prestige or Blue Note or Riverside on a 7-inch single, I'll pick it up. This one on the Trend label, the John Graz Septet. Interesting stuff. A couple arrangements by Shorty Rogers. I imagine the band was kind of a West Coast jazz players band on this one. I recognize the name John Graz. Kind of some third stream type jazz, kind of mixing jazz and classical, more composed pieces as opposed to improvisational. And then finally another 7-inch, this one on the Argo label, the Ahmad Jamal Trio with Poinciana and Soft Winds. And they use a color-coded system for anything $1 or less. Yellow is 25 cents, green 50 cents, blue 75 cents, and red $1. So this would have been 50 cents. So now getting into the bigger records. Some 10-inch here on Riverside. Fats Waller, the amazing Mr. Waller. Fats Waller on organ on Riverside. Yes, this is an early Riverside LP, 10-inch LP. And it's actually like, you hear that little tink tink tink, it's styrene, it's not vinyl. Real thin and flimsy, kind of interesting. I think these are recordings from the late 30s of Fats Waller playing organ. So kind of interesting from a historical perspective of jazz organists here. One of the very earliest jazz organists. And then next, this one really cool. That was, let's see, that was $2.50. And next up, this one is shellac. We're getting into the shellac classic 78s. This one on the Dial Records label. The Dexter Gordon Quartet with Bikini on one side and Stupendous on the other side. And this was $2. That was a really nice bargain on this. Yeah, I don't recognize the players in the band other than Red Callender on bass. You've got Jimmy Bunn on piano and Chuck Thompson on drums. So some very early Dexter Gordon here on 78. On the Savoy label, Cozy Cole and his orchestra with Body and Soul and Talk to Me on the flip side. And I thought it was kind of interesting in the band here. You've got Ben Webster on tenor sax and Ray Conniff on trombone. Of course, if you're a thrift store digger, you're used to seeing the Ray Conniff Singers, I believe it's called. Easy listening music from probably the 60s, but this is back when he was a bona fide jazz musician, I suppose. Next up on the Mercury label. Mercury, this is Illinois Jacquet and his orchestra with Speedliner and Later for the Happening. And these are all really cheap. This one $1.25. On the Apollo label, another Illinois Jacquet and his All-Stars, Music Hall Beat, and Jumpin' at the Woodside. Kind of a neat label. I've never seen the Apollo label before. Sorry about the glare. Another one on Apollo, again another Illinois Jacquet and his All-Stars, 12 Minutes to Go. And She's Funny That Way. Another one, this is $1.25. And then getting into some sets here, I guess you call these albums. The original concept of records, albums being that it's a book, kind of like a photo album. You know, a collection of several records, making it an album. So these are true albums, not like we just call records nowadays albums. So originally a 3-disc set. Actually, let me go to this big one here first. 12-inch 78s here. This is Norman Granz's Jazz at the Philharmonic on Stinson Records. Just titled Jazz at the Philharmonic for $4 here. It was a 3-record set. And all 3 of these sets, they're missing 1 record apiece. I suppose the record was smashed, broken at some point, as often happens with 78s with old shellac. So each one of these is missing 1 record, but I'm kind of into the jazz from the historical perspective. And the Jazz at the Philharmonic series was really interesting to me. So yeah, on the Stinson label, let me pull it up so you can take a look at the label. Apparently this was the first Jazz at the Philharmonic recording on record, and Norman Granz didn't retain the rights to the recordings. All of his Jazz at the Philharmonic recordings after this, he retained the rights and would reissue them again and again on his different labels, Clef or Norgran or Verve, what have you. but this one he didn't keep the rights, so he didn't get to reissue it. So I'm not sure if this has been reissued on CD or not. So pretty interesting stuff. Among the players here, Willie Smith, alto sax, Illinois Jacquet on tenor sax, Charlie Ventura on tenor sax, Howard McGee trumpet, Red Callender bass. Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So the original Jazz at the Philharmonic recording, and it looks like cover art here by what's his name, David Stone Martin. A long association with Norman Granz, doing a lot of art for his different labels, Clef, Verve, Norgran. Alright, so next up, I kind of suppose there might have been more of these at the Friends of the Library, and maybe there were some that were complete, and someone picked them up on the first day or two, and I kind of got what was left over, but still happy to pick these up. They're definitely not in pristine shape, but for being 60, 70 plus years old, not bad. This one is Jazz at the Philharmonic Volume 4 on the disc label. And again, cover art by David Stone Martin. So the disc label was a label founded by a guy, I think his name was Mort Asch, A-S-C-H. And he started the disc label and also had a label just called Asch Records, I believe, A-S-C-H. Yeah, pretty cool. So let's read some of the players on here if I can. Wow, it's really tiny print. I'm not sure if I'll be able to read the players on this one. My eyes are getting really bad as I get older. Okay. Jack McGee, tenor sax, again, Illinois Jacquet, tenor sax. J.J. Johnson, trombone. Shorty Nadine, piano. Johnny Miller, bass. Les Paul on guitar. Everybody knows Les Paul. Lee Young on drums. So that was Volume 4. Couldn't tell you just off the... Couldn't tell you what year that was recorded. I'm not sure. And then next up, Volume 5. Jazz at the Philharmonic, again on the disc label. And so we got on this one the classic Body and Soul. So the players here, looks like it might be from the same concert. Looks like the same players for the most part, including Les Paul on guitar, J.J. Johnson on trumpet. So I think this may have been recorded at the same concert, actually. And this one had a neat little insert that was still with the set. So I'm going to kind of fold it up. I think these actually came with booklets originally. You got a nice photo here. And I think there you can see Les Paul. Yeah, just some historical notes. So I thought that was pretty cool. I do have a turntable, kind of a cheap turntable, but it can play 78, so I don't have it set up. I've kind of got it stored away in my closet, but I can dig it out and plug it in. I want to clean these up and give them a listen at some point. But yeah, that's it for the records. CDs, like I said, CDs. Someone apparently donated a very large collection of jazz CDs, all in really good shape, and I just went to town. The first day I went, Monday, things were still full price. The day after, they dropped to half price. And the last day of the sale, everything was 10 cents. So I didn't buy a whole ton of CDs. I tried to... My strategy is always just to grab anything that looks interesting, stuff it in my bag, and then once I've made my first loop through, kind of find a quiet corner and then go through and prioritize what I want to buy and put some stuff back. And a lot of times I'll put things back that I may want, but they're not names I think people recognize. And I've kind of learned from experience that, especially when it comes to jazz, the lesser known names, lesser known labels, people don't usually grab them. Something like on Blue Note say like Lee Morgan or Herbie Hancock or Miles Davis, of course someone's going to grab that. But something on a more obscure label, more obscure artist, you can leave it behind and you can pick it up the half-price day or even the 10-cent day, because most people won't even know what they're looking at. So I grabbed a lot of Blue Note type stuff, some of the more common stuff, and bought that first, hoping that some of the more obscure stuff would stick around to the next day when things are half price. So I put these in alphabetical order. Here we go. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. A Night in Tunisia on the Blue Net label. And this was $1. Next up, again, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, just self-titled. And this was $4. Most of the Blue Notes were priced at $4. And next up, Tina Brooks, True Blue. A lot of classic Blue Note. This one on Verve, or actually it was originally on Argo. And I think Verve owns the rights to Argo now, or did at the time of this issue. This is the Kenny Burrell Trio, A Night at the Vanguard. The Kenny Burrell Trio, nice digipack reissue here for $4. Next up, Cool Struttin', Sonny Clark. And then from the Black Lion label, Stanley Cowell, Brilliant Circles. Someone had a really good taste in jazz, really very knowledgeable taste in jazz, I should say. It wasn't just, there's a lot of Blue Notes, but it wasn't just Blue Notes, some more obscure labels, some more obscure artists, so pretty cool. From the CTI label, Creed Taylor's label, Joe Farrell, Moon Germs, for $3. This one really good. Joe Farrell on sax, Herbie Hancock piano, Stanley Clark bass, and Jack DeJohnette on drums. It's more of a stripped back CTI recording here. I don't think it's got all the strings and stuff. Not quite so syrupy. Steeplechase. There were several Steeplechase CDs among the collection, which is really cool. I just never see these around. Steeplechase, a jazz label out of Denmark. So first up, the Billy Harper Quintet, live on tour in the Far East Volume 3. Like I said, the Blue Notes are all priced pretty much at $4, but the Steeplechase things, the lesser known labels, they priced at $1 a piece. So pretty amazing. And another one, this is the same Billy Harper Quintet. This is Volume 2 on tour in the Far East, again for $1. Just in beautiful shape. Someone took really good care of these. Next up, Joe Henderson, In and Out. A classic Blue Note. And then Joe Henderson, Page 1. And most of these are the Rudy Van Gelder remasters. Joe Henderson, Our Thing. These are all $4. Freddie Hubbard, Huptones. I'm definitely expanding my my jazz collection here with some solid classics. Next up, Cliff Jordan and John Gilmore with Horace Silver, Curly Russell, and Art Blakey, Blowing In from Chicago. And a little Wes Montgomery, Wynton Kelly Trio with Wes Montgomery, Smoking at the Half Note, for $4. I think I have this already, but kind of in the traditional jewel case issue. I like these trifold digipacks here. They're really nice. Do a nice reproduction of the Verve label, and they have a little booklet here that folds out or slides out. I couldn't pass this up for $4. Next up, this is something a little more obscure from Blue Note, from the later, I think mid-70s, early to mid-70s run of Blue Notes, the BNLA series. This is, I'll probably butcher the name here, Moacir Santos Saudade. I'm sure I butchered that. Yeah, kind of more of like a, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe like a Afro-Cuban jazz here. And this is actually a Japanese issue of this. You see all the Japanese writing on the back. And yeah, kind of surprised to find the obi strip inside this. Usually those things are long gone by the time you find a Japanese CD. And that was green label. That was 50 cents. Believe it or not. Woody Shaw. There were several Woody Shaw CDs among the collection here. So this is Woody 3. On the this is a Wounded Bird Records reissue here. Wounded Bird, along with Sony, for $1. It's got the red sticker. Woody Shaw Dark Journey. Looks like a compilation on the 32 Jazz label. Okay, another one on Black Lion. I think it's a German label, Black Lion. Charles Tolliver Grand Max for $1. The band here, John Hicks piano, Reggie Workman bass, Alvin Queen drums. Recorded in '72. And another Charles Tolliver on Black Lion. Sorry, Charles Tolliver The Ringer. Again for $1. Blue Notes $4. More obscure stuff for $1. So Stanley Cowell piano, Steve Novosel bass, Jimmy Hops drums. This one recorded 1969, it looks like. I recognize the name, I don't really know his music that well. McCoy Tyner, The Real McCoy. Another Blue Note classic. And the last jazz on the first day of the sale. Something a little more obscure. This Blue Note Connoisseur CD series reissue. Jack Wilson, Easterly Winds. Don't really recognize the name Jack Wilson, but he's got Lee Morgan on trumpet, Garnett Brown trombone, Jackie McLean alto sax, Jack Wilson on piano, Bob Cranshaw on bass, Billy Higgins on drums. So kind of cool. I like these Connoisseur CD series. Alright, so that was it for the jazz CDs. And a couple sort of more rock, not really rock, progressive rock maybe, or Canterbury type things. First up, the band Caravan, For Girls Who Grow Plump in the Night. That's on the Daram label. This is what we used to pay in the old days for a used CD, $10.99. But now people think they're just CDs are worth nothing, so this is $1. So pretty happy to pick this up for $1. And finally, Patrick Moraz, keyboardist for Yes, on the Relayer album and the Moody Blues. Also kind of replaced Keith Emerson in the Nice when the band became Refugee. And this is a nice Japanese sort of mini LP reissue of this on the, I believe it's on the Arcangelo label. What's the name of it? Nice little booklet, nice reproduction of the inner sleeve done here in cardboard. Got a nice little cloth sleeve for the CD, really nice. Unfortunately, it doesn't have its obi strip anymore. There's the CD. I did have this a long time ago. I used to be a huge Yes fan when I was a teenager, and I collected all the solo albums. and I never got into most of them, but this one was kind of interesting. Of course, fish out of water is still the very best. Chris Squires. So yeah, that was it for the first day. Had a really good time, but like I said, I only had 2 hours, so I had to just kind of skim through the records once and then go through the CDs and kind of prioritize. I put a lot of stuff back. I think I brought about $80 with me that first day, and decided I'd come back the next day with about 80 bucks, and figured I could buy, if I brought 80 bucks, I could buy $160 worth of stock because everything was priced at half price. So the next video will be my pickups for the half price day. Okay? I'll see y'all next time.